So we are reading Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert K. Kiyosaki. We are on the chapter Getting Started, page number 229 of the book and page number 159 of the PDF.
To successfully pay yourself first, keep the following in mind. Number one, don't get into large debt positions that you have to pay for. Keep your expenses low. Build up assets first. Then buy the big house or nice car. Being stuck in the rat race is not intelligent.
So, Shimla, I have to. Okay, so the idea here is very, very clear, right? What does he say? The tenants is do not get into debt. You see, the interest meter never stops 24/7. It keeps running. It does not see holiday. It does not see night or day. It keeps running. Number one. So avoid getting into debt. If you have credit card debt, pay it first. All the high interest debt needs to be cleared off first. And then clear off any debt that you have. Okay. Keep your expenses low. We can always find ways in which to cut expenses, and we have to pay attention to be able to do that. Okay. Number three, keep building up your assets. What does he mean by assets over here? Income generating assets, not non-income generating assets. If you are investing in a big house, then that is a liability. It is not an asset because it is going to take your resources. It is not going to give you resources back. And then he says, yeah, so after you've created assets and the assets are paying for all your requirements, using the income from the assets, buy the big house or the big car. Do not buy the big house or the big car before creating assets. Getting stuck in the rat race is something that you must avoid with all conscious awareness, right? Following the Jones is the worst thing that you can do to yourself. You have to see what apne kahavat hai, jitna chadar utna phailao, right? If you phailao your chadar more than you can, you are bound to land up in debt and in problems. So it's very, very clear. Keep your expenses low, keep building your asset base, buy the luxuries later, delay it as much as possible. First, create your assets, create your base, create your foundation, then build the building. What people do is they build the building without any foundation and they find that it is gone. There are so many cases where people buy big cars or very expensive cars, and after about 5 or 6 installments, the car is taken away. Why? Because they can't afford it, right? So you have to be very, very clear about what is your asset, what is your liability, keeping your expenses down. Yes, Renuji, you want to say something?
But actually in our Indian culture, I think we've all been taught that.
Yes, but we have been taught.
Credit card is one which is now getting us a little away from the old learning of.
देखिए, आपका generation तक एकदम सही था.
अच्छा.
We were all, our generation was also brought up in that way. And our generation is the culprit. Let me tell you, we have actually spoilt our kids. Okay, so they have got what they wanted before even they asked for it, which is the worst thing that we have done for them. We've not inculcated this mindset in them, which tells them that you need to save. You need to be aware of your situation. Just because everyone in your class is going for a holiday, that you have to go for a holiday. Everyone in your class has an iPhone, that means you have to have an iPhone. Yeah. Okay, this is all bullshit, let me tell you. And this is what is happening to our money. हम लोग का जो our generation जो है, people who are in their 45 and 50s, we have actually spoilt our children. अपना जो 45-55 range का जो लोग है, we have actually spoiled our children, and they don't understand this concept at all.
Okay, understood. I got it. Because I keep thinking our Indian culture basically is only to work inside your.
Yeah, so up to our generation, that means that's why you are not experiencing it, right? You ask your daughters how their children are.
Okay.
Then you
Right.
will understand.
Right. Got it.
Call your grandchildren and ask them how much are they saving.
Okay.
And
Got
you'll
it.
get your answer. Yes, Kumudji, you have to start your video. Kumudji, your hand is up. Can you unmute?
Yeah. Is it okay? Can you hear?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. So, Niket, I feel like our generation, like my generation, 60 plus and all, we had no choice, because the banks were not giving you loans. There was no credit cards. So
Correct.
if I had 1 lakh रुपया, तो मैं उसमें एक से ऊपर तो जा ही नहीं सकती. If I, the worst I can do. But today's generation, they are spoiled by all these banks, these credit card companies, these EMIs. This
Correct.
EMI is the culprit, I think.
Correct, absolutely. That's the worst thing you can do to yourself because the EMI interest rate is always high. ये बैंक से आप जैसे ही क्रेडिट कार्ड में कुछ भी स्पेंड करते हैं, immediately you get an SMS, you can convert it into an EMI. And what is the rate of interest in the EMI? 1.25%. अभी जो last आया मेरे पास. So 1.25% makes it 15% plus 1.5% processing charge. That is an interest rate of 16.5% which you will be paying on your EMI. Whereas if you put your money in the bank FD, today you're not going to get an interest rate of more than 6 to 6.5%. So what are you paying that EMI for? You instead of keeping an FD, you need, if you really need something, buy it one shot. Don't go into this EMI business because the interest rate will eat into you. It doesn't make sense.
So, but the younger generation is not understanding. I mean, now a 25 to 30-year-old will have a car of his own going for a holidays abroad, which was just unheard at our time.
That is the point, right? If they have the money, then go. If you don't have the money, don't go. So there was this one show, Susie something show, which used to come in TV. And when someone wanted to buy something, they used to go there and say that, okay, I want to buy this. So Susie always used to tell them, show me the money. Now, without showing the money, people want to do stuff. Okay, that becomes a huge problem.
That's true.
Number 2, when you come up short, let the pressure build and don't dip into your savings or investments. Use the pressure to inspire your financial genius, to come up with new ways of making more money and then pay your bills. You will have increased your ability to make more money as well as your financial intelligence.
Okay, so now, sorry. Now in this one, it becomes very, very important, right? Because this can actually put you onto the left side of the grid. If you allow the pressure to get to you, if you can keep yourself on the right side of the grid and keep looking for more opportunities, not doing too much of hera-fairy, then this becomes good, right? But if you start allowing the pressure to get to you, then it can lead to depression. So you have to, on this point, I would say that you have to tread a little carefully.
So many times I have gotten into financial hot water and used my brain to create more income while staunchly defending the assets in my asset column. My bookkeeper has screamed and dived for cover, but I was like a good soldier defending the fort assets. Poor people have poor habits. A common bad habit is innocently called dipping into savings. The rich know that savings are only used to create more money, not to pay bills. I know that sounds tough, but as I said, if you're not tough inside, the world will always push you around anyway.
So what is it saying? This is exactly what we were discussing previously in the beginning, that you should use the income generated from the assets for various expenses, etc., not dip into the asset itself, because the asset is what is going to generate the income. Now, if you eat into the asset, then there is no income getting generated. So it is very, very important that we use only the income generated, not the assets. So dipping into savings is not a very, very healthy thing to do. What you need to do is cut your expenses, be aware of what you're spending, and find new ways of generating more resources. That is the way that we need to actually go.
If you do not like financial pressure, then find a formula that works for you. A good one is to cut expenses, put your money in the bank, pay more than your fair share of income tax, buy safe mutual funds, and take the vow of the average. But this violates the pay yourself first rule. This rule does not encourage self sacrifice or financial abstinence. It doesn't mean pay yourself first and starve. Life was meant to be enjoyed. If you call on your financial genius, you can have all the goodies of life, get rich, and pay bills. And that is financial intelligence.
So again, the point becomes that you need to be aware of the opportunities that are there around you so that you can actually create financial freedom for yourself. So this awareness is a very important task. Okay, so that you can invest and how you can manage your taxes. That's a huge thing. We have to be able to manage our taxes, which is something that he discussed, right? How do you manage your tax? That is something that you need to really look at.
Number 6, pay your brokers well. The power of good advice. Sometimes I see people posting a sign in front of their house that says, for sale by owner. Or I see people on TV claiming to be discount brokers.
So now this becomes very important also. If the people around you are happy, right? So your broker is happy, the person who you are dealing with is happy, they are bound to care more for your transaction. They are bound to pay more attention to the transaction. So if you're fair to your broker and your broker knows that you will be fair with them, they will start becoming fair with you. And this is something that I have seen in my own life. I always make it a point to pay the broker in time. And they have so many stories where they say that the person has not paid me for 3 years, not paid me for 4 years. Now, what is the energy that you're generating? Today, if I call a broker, they will come immediately. Why? Because they know that if there's a transaction, they will get paid immediately, right? That is a goodwill that you build. And then they will give you good advice also. They will take care of your needs. So it's very important to pay people around you well so that they are happy and satisfied. I have seen this. When I go to organizations and when we do the energy check, there is one frequency which is it actually comes to the navel, it's 11.5. Whenever that frequency is off, it clearly tells me that people in that environment are not satisfied. They are not happy. If they are not happy, they are operating from the left side of the grid. If they are operating from the left side of the grid, performance is bound to be affected. Growth can never take from the left side of the grid. So the first thing is very important is that we need to see that people around us are happy and satisfied. Only then they will work for us. So it becomes extremely important, paying your brokers well.
My rich dad taught me to take the opposite approach. He believed in paying professionals well, and I have adopted that policy also. Today, I have expensive attorneys, accountants, real estate brokers, and stockbrokers. Why? Because if, and I do mean if, the people are professionals, their service should make you money. And the more money they make, the more money I make. We live in the information age. Information is priceless. A good broker should provide you with information as well as take the time to educate you. I have several brokers who do that for me. Some taught me when I had little or no money, and I am still with them today. What I pay a broker is tiny in comparison with what kind of money I can make because of the information they provide. I love it when my real estate broker or stockbroker makes a lot of money, because that usually means I made a lot of money.
So what is the mindset of people, right? That he has not done any job. Why should I pay him? But it's important to pay your broker. Again, I'm repeating, because when they get paid well, it means they are looking after your interest. Otherwise, they will not be looking after your interest.
A good broker saves me time in addition to making me money. Like when I bought the vacant land for $9,000 and sold it immediately for over $25,000 so I could buy my Porsche quicker. A broker in my eyes and ears in the market. Sorry, a broker is my eyes and ears in the market. They're there every day, so I do not have to be. I'd rather play golf. People who sell their house on their own must not value their time much. Why would I want to save a few bucks when I could use that time to make more money or spend it with those I love? What I find funny is that so many poor and middle class people insist on tipping restaurant help 15 to 20% even for bad service, but complain about paying a broker 3 to 7%. They enjoy tipping people in the expense column and stiffing people in the asset column. That is not financially intelligent.
So again, so it's like, you'll haggle with your vegetable vendor and spend a lot of time there, whereas it's a difference of maybe 10 or 20 rupees. But when you go to a restaurant, you have a meal and you will tip the bearer 200 rupees, right? Whereas what is the service that has been given? It's not going to make much of a difference. Over there with the vegetable vendor, it's going to make a lot of difference. So where are we arguing? Where are we actually putting our intelligence to use? This becomes very, very important over here. So if I pay someone who's creating money for me, rather than paying someone who's not creating or taking money from me, where are you? Okay, so we have to think in the way that we are thinking.
Keeping in mind that not all brokers are created equal. Unfortunately, most brokers are only salespeople. They sell, but they themselves own little or no real estate. There is a tremendous difference between a broker who sells houses and a broker who sells investments. The same is true for stock, bond, mutual fund, and insurance. Brokers who call themselves financial planners. When I interview any paid professional, I first find out how much property or stocks they personally own and what percentage they pay in taxes. And that applies to my tax attorney as well as my accountant. I have an accountant who minds his own business. His profession is accounting, but his business is real estate. I used to have an accountant who was a small business accountant, but he had no real estate. I switched because we did not love the same business. Find a broker who has the best interests at heart. Many brokers will spend the time educating you, and they could be the best asset you find. Just be fair, and most of them will be fair to you. If all you can think about is cutting their commissions, then why should they want to help you? It's just simple logic. As I said earlier, one of the management skills is the management of people. Many people only manage people they feel smarter than and they have power over. Many middle managers remain middle managers, failing to get promoted because they know how to work with people below them, but not with people above them. The real skill is to manage and reward the people who are smarter than you in some technical area. That is why companies have a board of directors. You should have one too. That is financial intelligence.
So again, what is he talking about? A company has a board of directors, and the board of directors are taken from people who heed well, who know how to advise the board and give direction to the company. So like that in our lives also, it is important to have a board of directors for ourselves, people who give us good advice, who can actually, it's like a mentor, like in the olden days, people had many gurus. So what were the gurus? They were the advisors. They were guiding you as to how to do stuff, right? In the same way, today also, we should look for guides and masters and gurus who can actually guide us in the way that we are doing things. So whoever knows more than you in a particular subject and is willing to give you the guidance, you should attach to them. Even in Vedanta, it is clearly said, attach yourself to anyone who knows more than you in that particular subject. Learn from that person and then step into the next level. So this becomes very, very important to enhance our own growth.
Number 7, be an Indian giver, the power of getting something for nothing. When the first European settlers came to America, they were taken aback by a cultural practice some American Indians had. For example, if a settler was cold, the Indian would give the person a blanket. Mistaking it for a gift, the settler was often offended when the Indian asked for it back. The Indians also got upset when they realized the settlers did not want to give it back. That is where the term Indian giver came from, a simple cultural misunderstanding. In the world of the asset column, being an Indian giver is vital to wealth. The sophisticated investor's first question is, how fast do I get my money back? They also want to know what they get for free, also called a piece of the action. That is why the ROI or return on investment is so important.
So again, whenever we create an asset, we are always looking at how will I get the money that I've invested back to reinvest in something else. So return on investment, ROI is called return on investment. And that is what is most important. Suppose I'm investing in a factory. So I need to figure out how soon I can recoup my investment that I have made. Because if it takes too long, then the interest costs, etc., the gestation period of any kind of a plant or any asset that you buy is extremely important. Because if you're not getting a return from that, then it is not worth investing in that particular asset.
For example, I found a small condominium that was in foreclosure a few blocks from where I lived. The bank wanted $60,000 and I submitted a bid for $50,000, which they took simply because along with my bid was a cashier's check for $50,000. They realized I was serious. Most investors would say, aren't you tying up a lot of cash? Would it not be better to get a loan on it? The answer is not in this case. My investment company uses this condominium as a vacation rental in the winter months when the snowbirds come to Arizona. It rents for $2,500 a month for 4 months out of the year. For rental during the off season, it rents for only $1,000 a month. I had my money back in about 3 years. Now I own this asset, which pumps money out for me month in and month out.
So what was his ROI? His RO return on investment was in 3 years. So that's literally a 33 to a 35, 40% return on investment, which is technically huge. The banks were paying interest rates at that time of 3 to 4%. He is earning 34%. So why will he not invest in that particular property?
The sophisticated investor's first question is, how fast do I get my money back? The same is done with stocks. Frequently, my broker calls and recommends I move a sizable amount of money into the stock of a company that he feels is just about to make a move that will add value to the stock, like announcing a new product. I will move my money in for a week to a month while the stock moves up. Then I pull my initial dollar amount out and stop worrying about the fluctuations of the market because my initial money is back and ready to work on another asset. So my money goes in and then it comes out, and I own an asset that was technically free.
So what is happening? He's investing 100 rupees, the value in 100 shares, let's say. The value doubles to 200. He sells 50 shares, takes back 100 and lets 100 be. Now he's not worried because that asset is free. It has paid for itself.
True, I have lost money on many occasions, but I only play with money I can afford to lose. I would say on an average 10 investments, I hit home runs on 2 or 3, while 5 or 6 do nothing, and I lose on 1 or on 2 or 3. But I limit my losses to only the money I have in at that time.
So again, jitna chadar, utna phailao. Only money that I can afford to lose, I put into risky, very risky investments. The rest of it, I see the ROI, I see the generation. So this money that he's getting from these stocks is like kickers, right? It's the icing on the cake. It's not the cake, right? The cake is more solid assets.
People who hate risk put their money in the bank. In the long run, safe savings are better than no savings. But it takes a long time to get your money back, and in most instances, you don't get anything for free with it. On every one of my investments, there must be an upside, something for free, like a condominium, a mini storage, a piece of free land, a house, stock shares, or an office building. And there must be limited risk or a low risk idea. There are books devoted entirely to this subject, so I will not talk about it here. Ray Kroc of McDonald's fame sold hamburger franchises not because he loved hamburgers, but because he wanted the real estate under the franchise for free. So, wise investors must look at more than ROI. They look at the assets they get for free once they get their money back. That is financial intelligence. Number eight, use assets to buy luxuries. The power of focus. A French child has been developing a nasty habit of burning a hole in his pocket. Just 16, he wanted his own car. The excuse? All his friends' parents gave their kids cars. The child wanted to go into his savings and use it for a down payment. That was when his father called me and then came to see me.
Okay, so now again, this is exactly what we were saying. The children today are following the Jones, and because of that, they insist that the parents dip into their savings. Okay, now a very good way to calculate in how many years you will get your money back is if you take the interest rate and you divide it by 72, you will get, or 72 divided by the interest rate, you will get the number of years in which your money will come back. Of course, this is not taking into account the taxation. Okay. So if you just do a quick calculation, let us say that I'm getting a 10% return on my investment, then 72 divided by 10 equals 7.2 years. I will get my money back. So you can very easily calculate your return on investment or ROI by this very simple formula. Now, this is like what was happening in Bagban. I don't know how many people have seen Bagban. Amitabh Bachchan in that movie actually used up his entire PF, his entire savings to indulge his children. Now, when he retired, the children were very apprehensive about looking after him, right? So we need to prepare, we need to focus on preparing financial stability for ourselves rather than indulging the children. We have to teach them how to be financially independent, not financially dependent. So over here is a clear case that this son wants to buy a car and he wants to dip into savings.
Do you think I should let him do it or should I just buy him a car? I answered, it might relieve the pressure in the short term, but what have you taught him in the long term? Can you use this desire to own a car and inspire your son to learn something? Suddenly the lights went on and he hurried home. 2 months later, I ran into my friend again. Does your son have his new car? I asked. No, he doesn't. But I gave him $3,000 for the car. I told him to use my money instead of his college money. Well, that's generous of you, I said. Not really. The money came with a hitch. So, what was the hitch? I asked. Well, first we played your cash flow game. We then had a long discussion about the wise use of money. After that, I gave him a subscription to the Wall Street Journal and a few books on the stock market. Then what? I asked. What was the catch? I told him the $3,000 was his, but he could not directly buy a car with it. He could use it to find a stockbroker and buy and sell stocks. Once he had made $6,000 with the $3,000, the money would be his for the car, and the $3,000 would go into his college fund. And what are the results? I asked. Well, he got lucky early in his trading, but lost everything a few days later. Then he really got interested. Today, I would say he is down $2,000, but his interest is up. He has read all the books I bought him, and he's gone to the library to get more. He reads the Wall Street Journal voraciously, watching for indicators. He's got only $1,000 left, but his interest and learning are sky high. He knows that if he loses that money, he walks for 2 more years. But he does not seem to care. He even seems uninterested in getting a car because he's found a game that is more fun.
So again, if you can connect to a higher laksh, if you can connect to a higher goal, then the lower goal automatically drops away. So it's very important to see what are you interested in, what are you focusing your attention to, whether it is actually creating some growth for you or is it depleting you. So who are the people you are associating with? Are they depleting you? Are they making you grow? Very important to actually look around and see.
What happens if he loses all the money? I asked. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. I'd rather have him lose everything now than wait till he's our age to risk losing everything. And besides, that is the best $3,000 I've ever spent on his education. What he is learning will serve him for life. And he seems to have gained a new respect for the power of money. As I said earlier, if a person cannot master the power of self discipline, it is best not to try to get rich. I say this because although the process of developing cash flow from an asset column is easy in theory, what's hard is the mental fortitude to direct money to the correct use. Due to external temptations, it is much easier in today's consumer world to simply blow money out the expense column. With weak mental fortitude, that money flows into the path of least resistance. That is the cause of poverty and financial struggle.
So I always tell people, right, when you have had a depletion, when you have faced hardship when you are young, right, and you transcend it, you cross it over, that is the best lesson that you can learn in life. Again, I'm repeating, when I go to clients and they're going through a bad time, I always tell them it's a very good thing that is happening to you. Simply because you pull up your socks, you start paying attention, you start understanding what is right and what is wrong. All the flab gets cut off. So it's very important to allow your children to fail in the beginning, because that actually strengthens them. Today, what are parents doing? We are protecting our children from all sorts of things, not realizing that later on it will start creating a huge problem for them. So we have to, maintain that balance where we know what we are doing for the children and what we are not doing for our children.
The following example illustrates the financial intelligence needed to direct money to make more money. If we give 100 people $10,000 at the start of the year, I believe that at the end of the year, 80 would have nothing left. In fact, many would have created greater debt by making a down payment on a new car, refrigerator, electronics, or a holiday. 16 would have increased that 10,000 by 5 to 10%. 4 would have increased it to $20,000 or into the millions. We go to school to learn a profession so we can work for money. It is my opinion that it's just as important to learn how to have money work for you. I love my luxuries as much as anyone else. The difference is I don't buy them on credit. It's the keep up with the Jones trap. When I wanted to buy a Porsche, the easy road would have been to call my banker and get a loan. Instead of choosing to focus in the liability column, I chose to focus in the asset column.
So what did he do? He wanted a Porsche, but he had the resilience to wait. He had the ability to delay gratification till the point where his asset column was generating enough assets to be able to cover the value of the Porsche, and he could buy it.
As a habit, I use my desire to consume to inspire and motivate my financial genius to invest. Too often today, we focus on borrowing money to get the things we want instead of focusing on creating money. One is easier in the short term, but harder in the long term. It's a bad habit that we as individuals and as a nation have gotten into. Remember, the easy road often becomes hard, and the hard road often becomes easy. The earlier you can train yourself and those you love to be masters of money, the better. Money is a powerful force. Unfortunately, people use the power of money against themselves. If your financial intelligence is low, money will run all over you. It will be smarter than you. If money is smarter than you will work for it all your life. To be the master of money, you need to be smarter than it. Then money will do as it is told. It will obey you. Instead of being a slave to it, you will be the master of it. That is financial intelligence. Number 9, choose heroes, the power of myth. When I was a kid, I greatly admired Billy Mays, Hank Aaron, and Yogi Berra. They were my heroes, and I wanted to be just like them. I treasured their baseball cards. I knew their stats, the RBIs, the ERAs, their batting averages, how much they got paid, and how they came up from the minor leagues. As a 9-year-old kid, when I stepped up to bat or played first base or catcher, I wasn't me. I pretended I was a famous baseball player. It's one of those most powerful ways we learn, and we often lose that as adults. we lose our heroes. Today, I watch young kids playing basketball near my home. On the court, they're not little Johnny, they're pretending to be their favorite basketball hero. Copying or emulating heroes is true power learning. I have new heroes as I grow older. I have golf heroes and I copy their swings, and I do my best to read everything I can about them. I also have heroes such as Donald Trump, Warren Buffett, Peter Lynch, George Soros, and Jim Rogers. I know their stats just like I knew the ERAs and RBIs of my childhood baseball heroes. I follow what Warren Buffett invests in, and I read anything I can about his point of view on the market and how he chooses stocks. And I read about Donald Trump trying to find out how he negotiates and puts deals together.
So again, we need to read, we need to understand how people are operating. And it is not that we just follow one person, right? We need to learn, we need to understand, and then create our own style, but be inspired by these people. So when we are looking at awareness also, what are we doing? We have been following certain practices, but we learn new practices and then integrate those practices into our practice and make a new khichdi, a new innovation for ourselves. That is the game that we are playing here, right? That is in the concept of personal and spiritual growth. When you want financial growth, you need to see, or you need to look at and understand how people did it. What did they do? Yes, it is very nice to see the chamak, all the chamak and dhamak after they have succeeded. But how many of us really want to pay attention to what they have actually done? What is the grind that they went through before they came to that status where they are? So we also need to go through the grind, right? We need to do the steps. We can't cook aloo dum without going through the processes and the steps of what made that aloo dum. But what we look at is, this guy is investing in that, so I will invest in that. No, we need to figure out what is our limitation. Why is he investing in that? What is the purpose of his investment? And then start making the investments.
Just as I was not me when I was up to bat, when I'm in the market or I'm negotiating a deal, I am subconsciously acting with the bravado of Trump. Or when analyzing a trend, I look at it as though Warren Buffett were doing it. By having heroes, we tap into a tremendous source of raw genius. But heroes do more than simply inspire us. Heroes make things look easy. Making it look easy convinces us to want to be just like them. If they can do it, so can I. When it comes to investing, too many people make it sound hard. Instead, find heroes who make it look easy.
So this is also very important, right? Whenever we associate with someone who knows about something, our power to do that something automatically increases. We've seen that today, if someone is, let's say someone is using the Lecker antenna, right? Someone is very good at using it. Now, if you are learning how to do the Lecker antenna, be around people who know how to use it. And if a person who's good at it touches you, you will find that it works better. So over here, what is he saying? Associate with them, make it see that who's making it look easy. That means they know the technique, they know the technology. So when you start emulating them, you imbibe their energy into your system, it will make it easier for you to do that particular thing. So whatever you want to learn, right, attach yourself to a person who knows how to do that. That is the best way to learn. Because when you are in that field, when you're in that aura, when you're in that energy, automatic transmission starts to take place, because your field will always pick up stuff. And this is a given.
It's like learning through induction.
Absolutely, 101%.
Number 10, teach and you shall receive, the power of giving. Both of my dads were teachers. My rich dad taught me a lesson I have carried all my life: the necessity of being charitable or giving. My educated dad gave a lot of his time and knowledge, but almost never gave away money. He usually said that he would give when he had some extra money, but of course, there was rarely any extra. My rich
So again, we have to understand that the best way to learn is to teach, right? So when you learn something and you explain it to someone else, your understanding and learning always gets better. So over here, what he's saying is that his rich dad was always giving charity, right? So the more whatever you give, you get back more of that. So his rich dad was giving money, he was getting more money back. His poor dad was giving education, he was learning more. He was constantly doing more, learning more, but he never had the money. Okay. So again, whatever you want in life, you need to give that away.
My rich dad gave money as well as education. He believed firmly in tithing. If you want something, you first need to give. He would always say. When he was short of money, he gave money to his church or to his favorite charity. If I could leave,
This is something that I have again learned from my father. When we were in the toughest of times, right, he was still doing charity. And I mentioned this before, and this is exactly what he is saying over here. When he was short of money, he simply gave money to his church or to his favorite charity. So even in the toughest of times, he was doing charity.
if I could leave one single idea with you, it is that idea. Whenever you feel short or in need of something, give what you want first, and it will come back in buckets. That is true for money, a smile, love, or friendship. I know it is often the last thing a person may want to do, but it has always worked for me. I trust that the principle of reciprocity is true, and I give what I want. I want money, so I give money, and it comes back in multiples. I want sales, so I help someone else sell something, and sales come to me. I want contacts, and I help someone else get contacts. Like magic, contacts come to me. I heard a saying years ago that went, God does not need to receive, but humans need to give. My rich dad would often say, poor people are more greedy than rich people. He would explain that if a person was rich, that person was providing something that other people wanted. In my life, whenever I have felt needy or short of money or short of help, I simply went out or found in my heart what I wanted and decided to give it first. And when I gave it, it always came back.
So again, we come to Ikigai, right? He says over here that person is providing something that other people want. So in Ikigai, what is the principle? Number one, what you are passionate about. What is your passion? You are good at doing it. And third tenet, it is required by the world, right? That people need it. And then if you do that, automatically you will get rich. Because if people need it, they will come to you. It's very simple.
It reminds me of the story of the guy sitting with firewood in his arms on a cold, freezing night. He is yelling at the pot bellied stove, when you give me some heat, then I'll put some wood in you. And when it comes to money, love, happiness, sales, and contacts, all one needs to remember is to give first. Often, just the process of thinking of what I want and how I could give that to someone else breaks free a torrent of bounty. Whenever I feel that people aren't smiling at me, I simply begin smiling and saying hello. Like magic, the next thing I know, I'm surrounded by smiling people. It is true that your world is only a mirror of you.
So again, we will connect with whatever we resonate with. we will notice whatever we resonate with. This is something again we discussed in Zero Limits. In the dark side of the light tracers, which is the next book that we would do after Zero Limits, we'll do it sometime. But that is the basic tenet, that what is it that you are noticing? You, whatever is coming into your life, you are resonating with. Otherwise, it will not come into your life. So this is a great example. When you give me some heat, I will put the wood in. So you want to take first before giving, right? So it is a control drama. Until we step out of the control dramas, which we read in Celestine Prophecy, we are not going to progress. So if we are constantly looking at what is the fruit we are going to get without just doing for the heck of doing, then again we are creating a problem for ourselves. So again, in this book also he says, do whatever you are doing because you want to learn, we want to grow, right? And once you start doing that, your asset column will automatically start to grow and the returns will come. Yes, Binaka? You have to unmute.
Hi, Nikki.
Yeah.
Just wanted to say, so all the things that come into our life right now, like you said, it's because it's resonating with us. That's why it's coming into our life.
Absolutely.
And most of the time that we are agitated or we are very mentally disturbed, it's because the things that we are doing are probably not resonating with the kind of personality we have. It's going against it.
Yeah. So what happens? We have come here with a life path. Okay. When you go into the higher focus levels, I don't think you've done the excursion, right? But when you do the excursion, you understand that there are various levels of consciousness. When we are out of the physical body, when we are not in the body, when we are in that expanded state of consciousness, we actually decide what is it that we want to do over here. What is it that we want to learn? The lessons that we want to learn. Now, so what does this imply? That whatever is happening in our lives, we have wanted to experience that. That is why they are coming into our lives. So now, when we start playing the blame game and saying that, okay, this is the circumstance which has created this to us, or this person has created this problem for us, we are not taking responsibility for what is happening in our life. Now, if you want to transcend something, if you want to grow above something, you want to learn the lesson that that thing which is happening in your life has come into your life to teach you, till you don't embrace it, it is going to keep repeating. Why? Now, today, why do you join a school? You join a school to learn a lesson. Once you've learned that lesson, you go into the next class, right? Now, suppose you don't learn the lesson, what happens? You're going to fail and you're going to repeat that lesson. So the universal consciousness knows what you have come here to do. So now you have created that resonance for that thing to manifest in your life. Now, if you are not going to embrace it and learn from it to transcend it, what is the universal consciousness going to do? It is going to make you repeat the lesson. So that is why in awareness, we keep telling people, focus on the patterns which are there in your life. If something is repeating in your life, you need to pay attention, because the universe is telling you, boss, pay attention to this. That's why it is getting repeated, right? So now, because you are creating a resonance, that is why you're doing that. So whatever you resonate with, that is what you will notice. If you are a happy person, you'll find that happy people are around you. If you are a sad person, you'll find sad people are around you. So where are you operating from? Okay, this becomes very important. Then you come into the grid. So which side of the grid are you operating from? What is the state of consciousness that you're operating from? You come into the David Hawkins levels of consciousness. So until we are growing, until we are actually transcending whatever issues that issues are coming into our life, if we can treat it as a burden, we can treat it as an opportunity. Now, if you're treating it as an opportunity, you're on the right side of the grid. If you're treating it as a threat, then you're on the left side of the grid. So what is the way that whatever is coming in, you're resonating with that. That is why it's coming in. But how you're dealing with it is the name of the game, to be able to transcend.
Can we say it all begins with a thought? It's that seed of that thought which...
See, again, when you look at it from the Vedanta principle, you have these vasanas. They call it the vasanas, right? So you have
Yeah.
prarabdha vasanas and you have sanchit vasanas. Now the prarabdha vasanas are the vasanas that you have planned to deal with in this life. So you are actually planning that what are you going to experience. But there is the sanchit vasanas also, which you can get rid of in this life also. And ultimately, when you want to transcend into another state of consciousness, you need to finish your vasanas. Otherwise,
we
the
say that the
vasanas will bring you back.
The prarabdha vasanas are the ones which determine our destiny.
In
we say
this
that?
life. In this life. Yeah. So a person who's going to transcend, who's going into an altered state, in the Monroe terms, you'd say that they will go into focus 34, 35, right? So when they are able to do that, that means they've got or cleared off their prarabdha as well as their sanchit. Now,
But we
according
also
to
have free will.
what?
We also have free will, right? Where we can change to a certain amount our destiny.
Absolutely. So it is all a matter of perspective, right? How are you looking at that particular thing? So the same thing may be a pain for you and you can make it a pleasure. And the same thing could be a pleasure, you can make it a pain.
True.
So gratitude, appreciation, okay, acceptance, you have to get into these states of consciousness.
Okay. Thank you.
I suggest do the excursion workshop.
So that's why I say, teach and you shall receive. I have found that the more I teach those who want to learn, the more I learn. If you want to learn about money, teach it to someone else. A torrent of new ideas and finer distinctions will come in.
So this is extremely important. When you teach, you're constantly learning. That's why we always say in all our programs that questions are very important. And we love questions. Because when a person asks a question, you have to think, you have to apply yourself, you have to look at new ways of doing stuff. That is why sharing becomes very important. And we encourage a lot of sharing in all the programs. So many tools are there. Like, for example, Usha ji, she came out with the memory encoding. It's become so powerful. In fact, I'm telling everyone in the institute now, because no one came up with this, right? Now that memory encoding has become like, wow, it's become like become like so powerful and encoding, where we were just using it to find keys, etc. Now, as soon as you use that encoding in the way that Usha ji said or explained it to us, it's really, really powerful. So we learn from each other. We can keep growing and learning, right? And when you teach, when you talk, when you discuss, right, the finer distinctions, the finer ways in how you can use that stuff starts to come up. For example, someone just came up in the last, before this excursion, we were putting a reball in front of the aircraft. Now this guy came up with the idea that to clear the road and to have a good trip, I put a reball in front of the car. Now no one thought about it. Now as soon as we are thinking about it and we have started using it, it becomes phenomenal. So this is what comes out of sharing, out of discussing, out of how we are using the tools and then working with a group, right? This becomes very, very important.
There are times when I have given and nothing has come back, or what I have received is not what I wanted. But upon closer inspection and soul searching, I was often giving to receive in those instances instead of giving for the joy that giving itself brings.
So what is the state of consciousness with which you are giving? That now becomes important. And this is what we've been talking about in awareness, right? How are you giving? Are you giving from a state of consciousness from the left side of the grid or the right side of the grid? What is the state of consciousness that you're operating in the David Hawkins list of conscious awareness? Now, if I'm giving with a depleting state of mind, nothing can manifest out of it. I need to be on the right side of the grid when I'm giving. It is extremely important. Otherwise, I'll never get back what I am actually looking for, right? So gratitude and appreciation again start to come into the picture.
My dad taught teachers and he became a master teacher. My rich dad always taught young people his way of doing business. In retrospect, it was their generosity with what they knew that made them smarter. There are powers in this world that are much smarter than we are. You can get there on your own, but it's easier with the help of the powers that be. You only need to be generous with what you have.
And the powers that be will be generous with you. Right? So again, generosity, teaching what you have, giving out what you have will always generate more. I think we can stop here.